people are always in all these debates quoting Gramsci, or I don't know who said the old, out with the old, but the new is not yet born. So we don't know. We are in a interesting, very uncertain phase where we now have to invent. And I mean, we can, as the African continent, we can invent. You guys are the new generation. You can invent new things, and hopefully, you know, so that we don't have a Cold War situation, so that we don't have the African Union and the African continent being victims of big power competition, other people deciding for Africa, so that, you know, these shore up the institutions, basically.
I wanted to ask, cognizant of time as well, possibly my last question. What then becomes the future of the non-aligned movement? Because I think we saw specifically with South Africa in respect to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but more specifically, in a very strange symptom coming through with the ICJ case, certain elements out of the United States government saying, well, you took a position that they view vehemently against Israel, therefore you are an enemy of the United States because you are an enemy of the United States' friends. Specifically, Africa's benefited from, certain African states have benefited from adopting the non-aligned movement position because it allows them to beneficiate from the relationship in the globalist trade, the global economy, during vast expansive period of globalism that hit us 90s, 2000s, and all into the mid-2010s. Does this new polarization of politics, not just on the continent but in the world, then mean that a position of non-aligned countries becomes more untenable, that it's no longer a position of benefit, but it now becomes a trickier position in that by siding with no one or by choosing not to take a position, you are immediately put into the position of an opponent?
That's a really interesting question. You know, I think South African diplomats grappled with that because initially, remember the backlash when South Africa didn't want to, criticize Russia for invading Ukraine at the UN, and I mean it lasted for years, and the criticism from the US, from the EU, and so on. But South Africa just said, you know, we are non-aligned. There is a non-aligned movement, which, you know, the non-aligned organization, I think, is pretty much been sidelined or doesn't exist. It's not a very strong organization. I mean, be diplomatic.